Hey, all you chess duffers out there. This is the Patzer with the chess.com puzzle for September 27th, 2019. Let's take a look. White is to go first, 3 moves, doesn't end in mate. And what's interesting about this puzzle, like so many puzzles that I do, chess.com puzzles that I do here on YouTube, is that when the Stockfish engine plays, it plays a little differently. Results are much the same. But in this case, it plays a really an amazing match that is worth taking a look at. That is to say, after the puzzle is solved. So let's see how chess.com solves the puzzle. We begin with the white knight threatening the queen. And the queen, as you can see, has got not a lot of places it can go to. Uh, these squares and this square are unavailable to it for obvious reasons. And so it steps all the way back to b8. And then the bishop comes forward to check the king. The king gets out of the way, and the white rook takes the black bishop. And that's the puzzle. 3 moves, and you've solved the puzzle. Now, obviously, there's a lot of chess left to play. I had a hard time beating black in this position, even after figuring out, after taking the black bishop. Couldn't do it, so I let the Stockfish engine take over, and the Stockfish engine's game was a thing of beauty. So let's take a look at how it solves this puzzle. Starts out the very same way. Pushes the black queen pushes herself back. Once again, white bishop checks the king. The king moves over to d7, obviously thinking that this way it can protect the bishop so that the rook can't take it. But that turns out to be wishful thinking because the white knight steps into action and forks the king and the bishop. So that turns out not to be a super successful solution. So let's now take a look at how this game unfolds, because it's kind of amazing. Now here we've got dueling pawns threatening opposing knights. This was, when I saw this, I thought, okay, well, that's good. I didn't understand why that move didn't happen earlier. Got the rook threatening the queen. Then the queen moves over there, and I'm thinking, well, whoa, okay. Well, I guess that makes sense because now we've got the pawn 1 move away from exposing the king to the queen. But what happens next? Well, the black queen obviously can see that things are going to go haywire, and white's next move, which is to check the king and for that knight, check the king and allow itself to be taken for reasons that'll be obvious in a moment. All right. So here we are. We're 9 full moves into this puzzle. And if you take a look at the board right now, white is seriously behind in points. It's 8 points behind. Now, granted, the pawn is right here. It's going to promote itself. The amazing thing, of course, is that the knight here, which would ordinarily, snarf up that queen as soon as it's promoted, can't budge because it's pinned by the rook. So what happens? Well, suddenly white is back in business. But then look at this move. It's like, what kind of a trade is that? Trading a rook for a knight? But it's all good. Here, I'm not sure why white decided to do all that futzing around with the king, because really what it wanted to do was this. Again, sacrificing the bishop and taking the queen in the process. Now, obviously, black's in a black's in a bad position. It's really unlikely that it's going to survive, and it doesn't. It is time consuming. White finally gets around to cleaning up all those pesky pawns, not to mention the pesky rook. And finally, that's it. 57 moves. But really an impressive chess game from the Stockfish engine. I've never seen sacrifices like that pay off so nicely. The Stockfish engine is just a marvel. It really is. Anyway, this is the Patzer. This was the puzzle for September 27th. Get out from behind the 8 ball, and I'll speak to you soon.